This series of programs is dedicated to alternative therapies complementing modern medicine, the men and women who practice it, and the people they benefit. You may now place a blank tape in your VCR. This information could be beneficial to the health of you and your loved ones. If we are smart enough to know that stress kills, shouldn't we be smart enough to diffuse it?
Behavior scientist tells us that the way we view at this glass determines the quality of our health. Do you see this glass half empty, or do you see it half full? Stress has a tremendous effect on our lives, on our work, on our relationship. And what a panel of experts do we have today to cover this topic. Beginning from left to right, Jody Rose Staley, psychic medium, shamanic minister, holistic practitioner with many years' experience in the field. To her left, Dr. Linda Maracchini, family physician, past president of the Florida Academy of Family Physicians, and in private practice for many years. To my left, Dr. Diane Baker, psychotherapist, specializing in attention deficit disorder, relationships, and stress management. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Miguel.
Yes.
Nice to be here.
And the topic, stressful, being stressed. Stress has in many effects. We are learning that it has actually effects on our relationships and our families, and this being a series to cover all those topics from the point of view of the medical field, from the point of view of the psychological effects of stress has on us, and from the point of view of alternative concepts that actually support mainstream medicine. Right. Let's begin with Dr. Maracchini.
The concept of stress sometimes has a negative connotation. While in fact stress is defined in many concepts in the medical profession, for example, as the body, the mind, the spiritual nature's reaction to a challenge or a noxious or negative stimulus. In fact, stress can be the result of actual positive interactions that are going on. For example, we have what we call a steady state. And the steady state, for example, is our everyday function, ideally in a non-stressed environment. I'm not sure anybody has a non-stressed environment. But for example, if you take pregnancy and delivery of a baby is a normal process. Yet it poses a stress, or it is a stressor to the body system. It changes heart rate, blood pressure. There's all kinds of neurological and endocrinological reactions to that stress. That stress is a good stress, but it is a challenge to the body. It is something that takes the body out of its steady state. So that is not necessarily a negative thing. It's just something that tests the body's abilities. And it should not be thought of as a negative process. One thing to really know is that you need to know that you can be in control of this. You make a choice for some of the psychological things that influence stress, or to make a person feel out of control. And there are ways to take charge. Maybe Diane.
So we have a negative stress, and we have actually positive stress that helps us in what we do. Give us some view on what we consider. You gave us some on positive stress.
Well, I'd like to talk a little bit about tension and anxiety, which creates the emotional state at which most clients come into me because stress has gotten out of control in their relationships And everybody wants the same thing, a good quality relationship, and it really starts with the person, recognizing the stress that's on their body, not having to feel defeated by it, but actually being able to live with it and being able to empower yourself with knowing what to do with that stress. So I find that being able to first address it and recognize that the minute stress kicks on, the minute the stress kicks on, the body perceives a challenge, okay? And we need to know how we're going to be able to shut that off, or how we're going to be able to empower the client to go ahead and function and improve their relationships.
So that goes under the heading of actually easier said than done. One of those things that we have to be aware of.
Absolutely.
On a daily basis, so we can sort things out and view things the right way.
Definitely. I feel that stress in our lifestyle, in our present day time, really takes us outside of ourselves, and we are finding that the more we connect to the inner part of our beingness is the better able we are to handle stress. So we're finding modalities that can support the individual getting in touch more with the inner core of their beingness.
We're stress pretty much, we're DNA in our senses, so actually whatever we absorb through our senses, it has an effect on our behavior and our DNA and so forth. Let's take a typical day for an average person. Right. We get up in the morning and we have time set aside to do our hair, in your case, your makeup, in my case, my makeup this morning, and then we get into our cars and so forth, and then we face traffic, which just before we begin our day, pretty much, in our jobs, we actually facing with traffic, which some of us are accepting, and other of us react differently to that, and that begins a stress. What kind of advice are we able to get involved with so we can actually view that traffic in a different light? After all, it is our mind that is doing the viewing and the sorting out, and it's either our blood pressure is going up or our blood pressure is relaxing. How can we better use that traveling time of the beginning of the day so it doesn't affect the complete day on our work day?
Miguel, that's a very good point, because I think perception is probably 90% of being able to handle the stress, how you perceive it. I have a lot of clients that come into me and they're so overwhelmed with the stress that they're worrying about tomorrow, they're not able to stop and enjoy the day. So I think that as a role model, as a clinician, that I like to really empower them to look at what they're doing to themselves and how they can make some changes so that their day doesn't have to start with, if they know they're going to have an hour commute to work, why not make the most of that hour commute? Okay, why not put some tapes in the car? Why not actually enjoy it and look forward to going it? We need to make some changes in our routine so that we are able to function a little bit better. We don't want to get to work already crazy or perceiving it the night before we go to bed of what tomorrow is going to be like. So I think perception has a lot to do with how we can diffuse the stress in our own life.
A key point that Diane made was also not just living in that day, but living in that moment. Take each moment, savor each moment. Some of the things, for example, that we do is when we're eating, we're talking on the phone. We're not savoring that meal. We're gobbling food down. It makes us sick later. We pay for everything consequently. The other thing, for example, on the drive to work, I mean, there may be things in your office that you're thinking about, or school that's coming up, or a test that's next week. I mean, that test is next week. It is not now. And if you can just live in the moment, savor that moment, and try and look at some positive things. I know traffic isn't very positive, but for example, as Diane mentioned, to use a tape or some relaxing music, to even just enjoy the environment, or notice particular aspects of people next to you in cars. I mean, that can be interesting. And it does not have to be a stressful event. You also need to concentrate on the fact that I'm stuck in this traffic. You know, I'm going to get there when I get there, and there's no point in jeopardizing my life trying to either weave in and out of traffic or do things that could be harmful. So, you know, in reality, those extra 5 minutes you might gain will probably not worth it.
Linda, I hear you talking about attitude, and that's so important. Yes. Because if you're able to look at how you're doing things, then you're able to stop and say, wait a minute, can I fix this right now? And I always say to my clients, are you worried about something? What can you do about it right now? If you can't do anything about it right now, then why don't you just enjoy the moment, okay? Not that you can't work on other solutions at other times, but there's certain things that we can't just keep going on and on with, because we're not going to be able to do anything to enhance our functioning. And in fact, the thing that we want to look at the most is ourself and our functioning. And I think we all come from an era where we feel guilty if we please ourselves. And actually, we're going to really improve our relationships when we're able to look at ourselves and we're able to look at how we're functioning.